So, welcome again, everybody, to another amazing episode of Beyond the Bubbles, the podcast about everything comics, pop culture, anime, you name it, we talk it. I'm, of course, Terry Williams, and the gentleman next to me is Mr. Ben Dunn.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
How are you, Ben?
Doing great.
Good.
Great.
Have any big adventures lately?
Well, not much. I'm just doing a lot of work at the office, trying to get my books done, doing a lot of drawing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love that. I mean, it still amazes me. I see guys do commissions and just draw something really fast. I'm like, how do you do that? It always amazes me. Yeah, I just got back from New Orleans. Went to Comic-Con down there, New Orleans Comic-Con. It was fun. It was a little smaller than it was, I think, billed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the guest list wasn't as big, but there were a few comic guys, just not the participation the crowd that I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been noticing that a lot recently.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I noticed the other day there was a Facebook post, might have been from you, or you, I think, chimed in on it, about the Comic Cons, how they are now. Are they actually comic related anymore?
Oh,
Did you see?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you can still call them comic cons as long
Yeah.
as there's a few comics. But, I guess to attract a larger audience, they have to appeal beyond just the regular comic book buying market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing comic guys there, but I do think that to have it be a successful show, I think they need all the other vendors. I think now with today's age, I think it just helps to have.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. It's
Yeah.
very true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I say that because of the movie craze that's happened in the industry over the last 10 years, I guess. I mean, to me, it started with Iron Man 1. That first Iron Man, it kind of propelled everything to the next level. Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where with all of that happening, kids and, people who are brand new to the comic genre are now climbing into the comic genre.
Yeah, I mean, one would hope that with the advent of comics to movies, that there would be a larger readership, but I don't think it's translated to a larger readership.
Yeah, I think I've seen more people picking up trades and graphic novels.
Mhm.
I've seen that being bigger now than the individual issue, and maybe people are just wanting to save money and just get the read, or if they see the Infinity War story, the movies, they
Well,
want to get that run.
I think there's a disconnect.
Oh, really?
When people go see, or kids or people go see the movies and they want to read the comic book,
Mhm.
they expect the comic book to be like the movie. But when they get the comic, it's not anything like the movie. The
Right.
characters are different. I mean, the storylines are different. I think that there would be, it's sort of a bait and switch, so to speak, in a way. But, it's hard to translate what's on a movie into a comic book because, and then vice versa,
Mhm.
But I suppose that when you want to read a comic book about Iron Man, you expect Tony Stark to be Iron Man.
Right.
And that's what you expect Bruce Wayne to be Batman. So, and also it could be just that people, what I've heard is that there's superhero fatigue, so to speak.
Mhm.
Too many superhero movies. I don't actually agree with that. I think it's more like people are just tired of badly written superhero movies. They want to see good superhero movies. I
Mhm.
think there's a big market for that still. But I just think that people are just got exhausted by the same old thing that they've been thrown at, and they want something a little different.
I can see that. Yeah, with me, it's about I clamor for a good superhero movie. Of course, I'm a comic nerd first, but seeing a really well done superhero movie does make me happy. It takes me out of my happy place. And speaking of good superhero movies, there's I see that Warrior Nun is becoming a 3-part movie series, I believe.
That's what I've read. I
Nice.
saw it on all the trade magazines, and I assume that it's not just a it's an official thing since it's in all the trade magazines. So Yeah, it's supposedly going to be a trilogy of 3 films.
Really?
Mhm.
So for all of you that don't know, and this may be your first episode or first time of tuning in or first time meeting Mr. Dunn, he is the creator of Warrior Nun. That's why I asked this question. How does it, so we know about the series, which I actually liked. How does it make you feel seeing or hearing your product, maybe your creation, your baby, maybe on the big screen?
Well, of course, I'm very excited about it. I mean, considering that the series started back in 1994, so it's a pretty old comic, and it had 2 seasons on Netflix. So, but that's a little different, than an actual theatrical release. That's, to me, that's the pinnacle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought when I read that news. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. So I wanted to text and ask you questions. Like, nope, I'm going to save them all for on screen so everyone can see and hear when I do what's going on and your reaction, because I was ecstatic for you, just because I know the care, the time, the love that went into that project.
Well, thanks, Terry. I appreciate it. Well, I know very little about it myself. All I know is that it's planned to be 3 movies. I'm not sure if they're going to use the same actors and actresses from the TV series.
Okay.
It may be an all-new reboot. I'm not sure. I can't say for a fact. It could be any number of things, as far as I know. But I'm sure as things move along, that we'll get a more clear picture of what intentions are. But, of course, with the writers and the actor strike, that maybe put a little bit a delay on the
of course,
on the production.
Yeah. So, and I know you have no control, you have no say, but if you could, and you could do the Warrior Nun trilogy, what part of the Warrior Nun story would you use? Because I'm partial to the 94, 95, 96 era Warrior Nun stuff, as opposed to not the grittier, I'll say, grittier stuff.
Oh, that's hard to say. There's so many storylines.
Yeah, right.
I would probably go back to the original first 3 miniseries, where it establishes everything, sets up the universe, sets up the characters, sets up the situation, and then I'd probably go back and pick little things here and there from the past series. I'd probably do a little thing from the Crimson Nun. I'd probably do a little thing from Rhine Tochter. I'd probably do a little thing from Warrior Nun Day. A little bit of things here and there to show the expansiveness of the character and the story and the universe, so that people can get more involved. I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize it, but the Warrior Nun comic book series lasted from 1994 to well into 2010. So it was a very long run with hundreds of issues of comics. So the potential storylines are vast.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. It's like it's such an expansive story line. There's so many arcs and runs that, you could take. I mean, there's numerous ways you could go with it.
Sure, and they could just make up their own stuff, too.
Exactly.
They could just use it as a foundation and decided that, this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to go something different with it. Sort of like the way MCU did with broke it away from the actual Marvel universe.
Right.
Because they knew, I'm sure anybody can tell you that translating comics to movies is a difficult thing. And it's been around for a long time. I mean, in the 1940s, they did movies based on the comics. They're a little different.
Yeah, way different.
But they for all that's intent, they tried very hard to stay close to the source material. And I think that's the key to any successful adaptation, is to try to stay as close to the source material as you can. I mean, you can adapt, you can change, that's perfectly fine, as long as it doesn't stray too far from this actual source material.
I agree. I couldn't be happier. I'm excited. I think it's going to be wonderful.
I'm actually going to jump in here. Hi, this is producer Joshua, just kind of jumping into this podcast. I have a couple questions for you, Ben, if you don't mind me asking, because I am also a fan of Warrior Nun and am very excited to see what Netflix decides to do with this new adaptation. But I want to ask you, if you had a director and if you were the casting director for these films, who are some of your choices you'd like to see?
Nice.
Oh, gosh. I would love to see Quentin Tarantino's take on it.
Ooh, a Quentin Tarantino Warrior Nun?
Nice. I could see
do
that.
something really different with it.
I could see a Dusk Till Dawn type twist.
We're getting good stuff now.
I guess he's sort of a grindhouse.
Okay. So Warrior Nun, directed by Quentin Tarantino. These would be his last films ever too, because he already said his next film is his last.
Yeah.
Let's talk casting. Is there any? You don't have to say all of them, but have you ever envisioned a certain actor or actress as any one of the roles in particular?
No, I would probably, if I was the casting director, I'd probably go with an unknown.
Nice.
Just to give it a spot, and just try to make sure that it's a fresh face and that you could do something different. I mean, I would do the supporting cast as known actors, but I would just take the Superman route, take the cast as unknown. Yeah.
Very nice. And then last but not least, this is a very interesting question that I find, but if you could release the first of these trilogy movies, when would you like to release it?
Oh gosh, I am no expert on that. That's for sure.
I mean, some people are like I'm stupid. I know that movies in January generally are where movies go to die, but my birthday is on January 11th. I would love to have, if I ever directed,
all about Josh.
If I ever directed or wrote my own movie, I would die if I could get it to debut on my birthday. So I just wanted to know.
I always found that a little bit odd where they say that things, certain time periods are where things go to die.
It is pretty interesting.
And I think that you release a good movie at any time, people will go see it.
That's kind of been my thought, is that the summer blockbuster, all that kind of thing, if it's going to be a blockbuster, you can't tell me that the time that Avengers Endgame came out had anything to do with how it did.
Yeah.
I just refuse to believe that.
Well, I think people's movie habits are changing too. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we have so many multiplexes now. Mm-hmm. We have people can have transportation. They can go anywhere. I mean, when you and I were growing up in the 80s, we had cinemaplexes, but they weren't nearly as many back then.
Right.
And we had very few options as far as transportation is concerned. Also, we have streaming now. Mm-hmm. We have the internet. There's any number of ways you can watch a movie these days.
Yep.
So it's to me, I don't think that there's a sort of. I mean, winter is probably the time period that people go see the movies the least, because just the weather. But still people go see movies even in winter.
And see, for me, I'm completely opposite. You're more likely to find me in a theater in the winter than in the summer, because in the summer there's so much more to do than there is in the winter. In the winter, I want to end up being inside, huddled up, warm. Why not? In the summer, I want to be out doing stuff, active, doing whatever. So
I would think that if I were to go do a movie, it depends on what the budget of that movie was. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, if it was a huge budget movie, I would probably want to release it at a time where there's maximum potential for audience. If I was a low budget movie, I'd probably do it maybe when there's less competition, and less and more ability to get your movie out there.
That makes sense.
I mean, if you did like a $200 million movie, you'd have to release it at a time when you can get the most number of people and you
that
see
makes
it.
Sense.
If you did only a $10 million movie, what does it matter? You release it in January or August or whenever. If it's a good movie, people will go see it, and you'll probably make triple or quadruple your money back.
Sure, makes sense. So. Very cool.
Barbenheimer is a perfect example of that. Yeah.
And what's the budget on? What was the budget on that one?
So Oppenheimer, the budget was around $200 million.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's like a superhero movie.
I mean, he's it's Chris Nolan. Nobody knows this. Interesting story about his, not Oppenheimer, but the movie Tenet. That entire movie was helped in budgeting through, I forget which country it is, but they got a country to basically like let them Peter Jackson and film the whole thing within their country. And they gave them a tax break for filming the entire thing.
They let them blow up a real atomic bomb. I mean, how many people can do that?
True. True.
I like to blow up an atomic bomb on my movie.
Chris Nolan kind of gets to do what he wants to do. But
and
then Barbie, I believe, is like 100 to 150 mil.
Wow.
Because so many famous people.
Well, it certainly made its money back for sure.
Barbie.
The Barbie budget was strictly actors, I think.
Well, that was a brilliant brilliant piece of marketing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
absolutely.
Whoever did the
It was.
marketing on that
Yeah.
needs a raise.
Yeah, they a lot of people saw that movie and were like, "Oh, this movie isn't for me," and I was like, "Correct.
Yeah.
This movie's hitting exactly the demographic that it needs to
Right.
hit,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
profit margins."
Because I saw today that it
Definitely.
actually passed Batman.
Like $1 billion
Batman,
already.
Billion, yeah.
Jeez.
Forgot which one. Dark Knight.
Dark Knight,
Man, it's Warner Brothers'
Yeah.
highest grossing movie,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
it's amazing
Considering
yeah.
what the Dark Knight did, what we all thought.
I mean, I hate people don't like to admit it, but it's the power of PG to PG-13.
True.
PG is just so inclusive, and when you get the kids involved, and that's where this movie was targeted. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
PG-13 seems to be the magic rating. I mean, PG right now is sort of like the G of
yeah,
back in
Of our
yeah,
day,
it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
When was the last
Yeah.
time you saw a movie rated G? That came
I
out?
think there was actually one movie rated G about
Really?
a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
can't remember. I haven't seen. I mean, if I
even
did, I
like
didn't
the
realize
Lego
it.
movies. Were
Yeah, even the
PG.
yeah.
yeah,
Man, all the Disney stuff is all
Yeah.
PG. I mean, everything is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating time for me.
Yeah,
But
G
anyways,
is like the NC-17. You never really see any movies.
Not
rated
anymore,
those
yeah.
ones.
not anymore. Yeah, no. I think the last NC-17 movie that came out that I know of was, I think, Steve McQueen's Shame, that came out like only theatrically in the UK. He's the guy
Yeah.
that directed the Oscar award-winning film, about slavery that I can't remember right now.
12 Years a Slave?
12 Years a Slave.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it was his
Wow.
last film. Yeah.
Wow.
That must have been something to get an NC-17 rating.
Especially
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I was
UK,
telling my
yeah.
wife the other day about ratings. Is that they should be like a different levels of R rating.
Yes.
Like there should be an R rating with
Absolutely.
language, like RL. For language, R. X S for sex.
Well,
R in for nudity.
Do
R-
ratings even matter anymore? Like, you see kids going into movies that are rated R, and I was like, I remember back when I went to go see films, they would not let you in the theater.
Right.
If it was a rated R movie, you had to be over 16 or 17
Or
whatever.
with your parent.
Or with your parent. Nowadays, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think they check anymore. I don't think it's a real hard issue anymore. I think it's.
I think it's for liability.
Yeah.
They have
it?
to
Okay.
do sort of a little rating because they want to. You have to warn the parents. At least we tried.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
so if you don't follow the guidelines of the rating, then hey, it's not on us.
Yep.
It's sort of like those warnings like coffee is hot.
Yep.
And or don't eat the
Right.
box.
Yeah, and
type
I
of
always
thing.
thought that it was the ratings were more of like you said, a thing for the parents to make the decision. Hey, this movie, and I really think your idea is great if it's RL for language, RN for nudity, RS for sex, or whatever. Then as a parent, because for me as a parent, having grown kids now, back when they were little, I would decipher what I wanted them to see or what I thought they were able to handle. And if it was just some profanity, I was typically okay with it as long as it wasn't like over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Nudity is kind of where I drew the line depending on what it was.
Yeah, but if you had a rating that says nudity, then you know you to expect some nudity,
Yeah,
and you have a V
There was
for
really,
violence.
yeah, there was really no violence, and I guess I'm a bad father. There was no violence I kept my kids away from, except unless they were little and it would scare them. But outside of like seeing people killed, it's just or guns or whatever, it wasn't ever one of those things I thought, oh man, my kids are too young to see that, and they probably were, but
So as I'm going to tell you a horror story. As of like 8 years old, one of the earliest movies I ever have of seeing a movie was walking in on my grandfather in the living room, sitting down with him and watching basically the entirety of Deer Hunter. So
wow.
Yeah, and that scarred me for life.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have seen the movie since, but like very rarely. And it's one of those. So you have nothing to worry about.
But it's one of those things where it's changed. Like you being in your 20s, right? Still, Josh.
Thank you. I'm
Okay,
30.
maybe 30. Oh,
I'm
wow.
30.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Ben and I are older than that. So from Ben
Not
and I
by
to
much.
you,
We're
Be
boomers,
surprised.
man.
yeah,
We're
from Ben
boomers.
and I to you, it's like when we grew up, like going to see a movie like RoboCop that had tons of violence
Yeah.
and all that wasn't
language.
any issue for me to go see it. My mom
Yeah.
didn't care.
Right.
Go watch it. And we
Yeah.
talked about his kids, and they even had toys marketed to kids from the RoboCop
Oh,
movie.
yeah,
It's
that
like
was
it
the
was
golden
aimed
age.
at us.
That's
Oh,
the golden
yeah.
age of
Aliens,
R-rated
RoboCop,
merchandise.
and there were even like
Predator.
yeah, Michael
Oh, yeah.
Myers,
Commando.
Police
yeah,
Academy.
and all these
Yeah.
movies were absolutely not for children.
No, yeah, they definitely
Toxic
were not.
Avenger.
Yeah,
Toxic
especially Toxic Avenger,
which
is a cult classic.
We need to talk about soon. Did you see the picture released?
No.
Oh, Peter
No.
Dinklage first images Toxic Avenger just came out.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Wow.
oh goodness,
You just blew my mind.
Oh.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Oh,
God.
Peter
my
Dinklage
goodness.
as I'm about to
That's-
show you the picture.
oh my goodness, great,
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, but and the cast for that thing is
Oh my goodness,
Boy,
incredible.
talk about not sort of doing something, what do you call it, anti-casting.
Yeah.
Never
Who would've
would have thought about
no,
doing
that's
that.
absolutely opposite of what I would have thought, but. He's broad enough. I think he can do it. I mean, as an actor, he's great. I love his.
All right, so let's
skills.
see. Here's the first image. I'll show you the image, but really quickly, I'm going to tell you the casting. The casting is Peter Dinklage wields the mop. I love that.
Yes.
Jacob Tremblay, who was the kid from Room, if you guys remember that from a few years back.
Mm-mm.
Brie Larson won the Oscar for that film, but he
Oh
was
yeah,
the,
yeah. I
he
never
was the-
saw it,
he
but
was
I
a little kid.
remember
He's
it.
a lot grown up,
Right.
now. Peter Dinklage, Taylor Page, don't know who she is. Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon in this
Wow.
film. Yeah, Macon Blair directs. Do not know who he is, but it's a very small picture. But I'm gonna see if I can.
So
blow
another
it up.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
It's another 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There is the first. You can't see all of them yet, but
Oh, so cool.
Oh, wow.
So cool.
there you go.
Oh, my
Oh, you can't
goodness.
even see anything. It's
You
just
Now
a
I'm
silhouette.
excited.
but it gets you excited though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just you mentioned without the picture, I was excited.
Trevor lives with that picture. There's no scale, so
Yeah,
we don't
there is
know
no
how
scale.
small he
Right.
actually
Yeah,
is.
you know what? That could be the great twist of the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like
Exactly.
full size Peter Dinklage, or everyone's small and Peter Dinklage is large. Who
Oh,
yeah,
knows?
whoa.
I don't know. There's a whole bunch.
It's
of
hard to
things that
say
could go.
without
Yeah.
seeing an actual
Yeah.
production pic or a trailer.
Yeah,
You know.
I was excited. I didn't get to
Mhm.
see. I didn't live in the time period where Toxic Avenger really had its
Right.
heyday. So I can't imagine what that's gonna.
Wow.
that's
Is it by
exciting.
Troma? Is it Troma doing the
Let's
the
see.
thing, or is it by a major studio?
Let's see. It is being brought. Legendary is producing.
Oh.
it.
Legend. Oh my
Wow.
gosh. The guys that did King Kong
Wow.
and
Yeah.
Godzilla. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Jeez.
Legendary is
So I wonder
producing this.
if
I wonder if they bought the rights to it or something.
that's interesting. I wonder where this is going to lead.
The film will premiere at Fantastic Fest on September 21st. So it's coming out
Oh,
soon.
yeah.
Wow,
We
so
should
it's
see
already
a
Yeah,
done.
it's
trailer,
already
yeah.
done.
so it's
yeah.
bagged
Oh.
and done.
Holy
We
moly.
should- we should have a trailer
How
by
have they
now.
not released a trailer or
yeah.
anything for
How about
this yet?
wow?
Well,
I mean,
maybe,
this is gonna
maybe
be-
they want
But
maybe
you know,
they
this-
want the thing to be a
Yeah.
total surprise.
But it has
Absolutely.
but Toxic Avenger has such a cult following.
It does. Yeah.
I mean,
I even love I was in the middle
Oh, yeah.
part where nobody talked about it, but I
Yeah.
like Toxic
Troma
Avenger.
did a lot of those things back then. I mean,
Yeah.
do you remember like Sergeant Kabuki Man and
yes, yes. Wow,
Yeah.
this is going good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So see, these are the type of comic to cinematic things I love to see.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I know everybody loves like their Justice League, their Superman, their Batman, their those characters. For me, it's more about let's see,
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's see Toxic Avenger.
Yes.
Let's see, these
Well,
creatures.
I mean,
Werewolf by Night. Let's see
Yeah.
all of these things.
the thing is that in the 70s and 80s and 90s, you had a healthy independent movie industry.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That was the thing, is that people could make movies, for very little budget and just come out with them.
And-
It seems like nowadays there doesn't seem to be that drive to do independent movies. I
Right.
mean, most of this independent stuff I see is on YouTube, and some of the independent movies I see there are amazing. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
the special effects are things that you could only dream of back in the 80s and 90s. I mean,
Yeah.
just dream of.
Absolutely.
That people are just doing on their home top computer.
Mhm.
I mean, going back to the point of the independent scene, like that is such a big point with properties nowadays. There's just all these big companies just buy up these every single one of these properties and don't ever make, like, a lot of them are just shelved for down the line in case a big time filmmaker suddenly says in an interview, hey, and then they approach them and they're like, oh, look, we got
what
this.
happened to the eye-grabbing movies that they used to do back then?
Yeah.
I mean, they used to come up, there was a thing that the Roger Corman used to do all the time, is that he would make the movie poster first, then do the movie.
Oh, that is so cool.
You know, they would just they would come up with an image or a title, you know, and then make a movie around that title.
Wait, what movies? That's so cool. I want to look this up. I've never heard of this.
Well, that a lot of them did them that way, like, you know, like Surf Nazis Must Die.
Oh, my gosh. No way. That's awesome. I've seen that.
You just tapped into Josh's.
I'm a film like junkie.
Where
I've
are
watched
those
a ton.
eye-catching titles on movies that they don't make those anymore?
They don't.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where a lot of directors got their start. Is making those low-budget, grindhouse films.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Do you think that with creations like and with franchises now like Warrior Nun, Toxic Avenger on its way, things like that, that will maybe open the vault a little bit for some of those old indie titles or less known characters to be created or brought to the big screen?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're already seeing it right now.
There's so many properties and great concepts out there that even from, you know, all those small independent titles that were done, like one I'm a big fan of is Cry for Dawn. I love that series. I loved Lisner's art. I loved everything about that series. And I thought, I always thought that would be a great comic. And in my mind, from when I first read the book, I had an image of who I thought the actor should be the player. I was like, oh, it would be perfect. And the story could be this, and it could do this, and they could do that. And with the independent, the smaller market, you know, it brings that character to, because if you're not a big time comic fan or a even like a manga fan maybe, or a friend of Ben Dunn, you may not know about Warrior Nun until it became a property on Netflix.
It's true.
So that brought, cool. You know, so it's bringing these characters that a lot of us know and love to a whole new audience that didn't know they even existed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like anything, it's a difficult path to hone. I mean, the thing about it, lots of properties get optioned. You know, I mean, lots of independent comics are being optioned right now. You know, the biggest hurdle is getting past that. You know, the production stage of it is the most difficult part. And of course, it all comes down to money.
Yeah.
You know, you have to get people committed to it who can actually get things done. You know, my luck is that I have a producer, you know, and an agent who's very he's very enthusiastic about the property, and that's important. Okay, because sometimes a lot of it comes down to your drive to push the your property. You know, sometimes you just got to get the right meeting, meet the right people, know the right person to get things done. I'm not sure what the situation is with Cry for Dawn. I'm sure with a lot of properties, maybe the creator is very, very protective of his property and doesn't want to see other people's take on it.
True.
You know, so he may not want to, you know, part with it in any way unless he has total creative control. And that is, I'm not going to say it's a problem, but it's a big thing in wanting to translate things into Hollywood, is that, you know, everybody wants a little bit of the pie.
Right.
You know, they want to put their little 2 cents in, you know, so because if it's a big success, they can claim part ownership.
Yep.
Oh, I came up with that idea.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
Things like that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's a big saying, there's an old saying in Hollywood, you know, success has many fathers.
Yeah,
Failure
true.
is an orphan.
Yeah, because, you know, I was so excited when way back when The Crow was created as a movie. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And now I'm thinking, you know, my mind has always, because like I mentioned in our last podcast, how I used to be, we talked about the X-Men casting forever, who they would be way back then. Like, oh, this is, you know, and the whole time it was Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier. That was just like the no-brainer. Everybody else had these different opinions about everybody else, but he was it. So with me, I think about like comics that I love that no one else really knew about, like Evil Ernie. I was like, that would be such a great movie,
That'd be a
great
one, too.
series. but no one ever did it. And maybe it's like Josh said, it takes that. And again, I said Josh. Why did I say Josh? It's Josh.
Thinking
with
of a
Josh
different
Stone.
person. Yeah.
Josh Stone. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, you think about it, that it takes that Christopher Nolan to say, "Hey, I want to make this film."
Sure.
Or it takes somebody like with Black Adam. It
Well,
took The
if
Rock doing all that work to
somebody
get
of
it
that
done.
influence, he
Right.
can get things done.
Right.
If he can want to, if James Cameron were to say tomorrow, "I'm going to do an Evil Ernie movie," people would throw money, drive dump trucks to his house, of money to get it
James
done.
Cameron is
Just take my
evil.
money.
That's
Just take
right.
my money already.
Because he has that kind of influence. But
Right.
if you had done that when he was back in 1984, nobody would have given him
Right.
time of day.
Exactly.
Okay, it took him a long time to get where he is, and a lot of people seem to forget that a lot of these influential and powerful people in Hollywood all had their start somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, some of them got a little boost because they were riding the coattails of somebody like they have a famous father or mother, or something else like that. But even they had to start somewhere.
Right.
And that's the thing that I always try to emphasize to everybody, that everyone has the potential to do something really big, to be the next Harry Potter, to be the next Star Wars.
Yep.
Because even then, George Lucas, when he was trying to sell Star Wars, everyone laughed at him. They thought he was crazy to do a science fiction movie in that day and age. And they said, no, George, you're crazy. What are you doing in science? Do another American Graffiti movie.
40 years later.
But
and
he was passionate about doing Star Wars. And he was lucky to run into the guy at 20th Century Fox, Ladd, I think was his name, and he said, "Okay, let's do it. Let's do this movie," and it became.
40 years later, here we are.
It's people, and same with J.K. Rowling. She was rejected by, 100 publishers until finally someone took a chance, and only because, and this is a great story. I love this story. Only because one of the publishers took the manuscript home, and his daughter read it and loved it. And that was the only reason that he picked up the book.
I had no idea. Wow.
I mean, it can be as simple as that.
Yeah.
To get you on your way to to become a pop culture icon.
Yep.
But the thing about it is that you have to be the instigator of that. Okay, you cannot be sitting on the sidelines and saying you hope that someone will come knocking on your door saying, "Oh, what a genius piece of work you've done."
Right.
That's really not going to happen. It's very rare that it happens.
True.
So it in the case of like your Cry for Dawn, I'm not sure how many or even Evil Ernie. Now, Evil Ernie's Lady Death was a movie. Yeah, so it became a movie.
Yep.
So it wasn't like he didn't have an opportunity to get something done. It's just that after the movie came out, it didn't resonate with a lot of people.
Right.
But that's not to say you can't bring it back in some other form. Saying, if I was a producer, let's say, what if we did Lady Death, but instead of making her all white and booby and, a sex symbol, why don't we make her sort of like a businesswoman? We could call her Lady Death, and she's like, this is the kind of approach that, Hollywood thinks about, because they're always thinking on a new level. And I mean, that's just the way things sort of work. If and he may say, the Brian Pulido who owns Lady Death, he may say, no, I want Lady Death to be, the white, big bosomed, white-haired angel of death. But I mean, you don't know. Like you say, somebody may approach him and say, look, if we knew Lady Death, and she's like, because they're thinking the long term. They're thinking about, will this have legs?
Right.
Will this resonate with people?
Right.
Will this version of Lady Death in the comic book version sell to the general public?
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So
Some of those things just don't, like Barbed Wire is a prime example. Great concept, but it just didn't transition well to the big screen.
Well, what's ironic is that they actually stayed very close to the source material.
Right.
But it just didn't resonate.
Yeah, it didn't resonate. Yeah.
So that sometimes it shows you that sometimes comics, a direct adaptation of a comic, doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's fair for almost. There's a lot of books that probably should stay books and should never be adapted. And same things as movies may not work out as comics, or comics may not work out as movies or TV shows. So that was actually my next question: is what do you think is one comic property that you don't think would transfer over well to a movie?
That's a head scratcher.
It is.
See, for me, it's like there's some comics that I think absolutely I don't want to see as a movie. And one of them for me, and it's being made, and I'm not seeing it, is Gargoyles. I'm not seeing.
Is that really being made?
Yes. And I'm not as a live action.
I might be with you on that.
And I'm like, I can't. I can see it as an anime.
Show. Yeah,
exactly.
Because the animated show was freaking
There's so
awesome.
many great, and I don't know. Maybe Lady Death would be, which Lady Death actually was. And now that I mention it, Lady Death was an actual anime, which there was an anime Lady Death. I watched it not too long ago. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those, I don't know. Gargoyles, I think of first off. That's one that probably pops in my
I think
mind.
that's a good pick. Ben, do you have anything that jumps off your head?
Oh, well, gosh. It's just, the thing about it is that you could practically take any comic and do it in some fashion. Either animation or live action.
I would agree. It is hard. I must say, though, like my number one pick, and this might be controversial, is the comic book Mouse.
I would agree with you with that.
I adore that comic line, that graphic novel, and I don't see it working. I don't even know if it would work as an animated thing. I think as a comic with the artwork and the art style.
Well, I mean, even if it was animated, what audience are you aiming it at?
Yeah, where are you aiming it at? Yeah, like as a
it's
so
way too
singular.
dark for kids.
Yeah, it's such a singular piece of
and
art.
the topic may be too,
Drastic,
it's still pretty heavy even today.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's any Holocaust survivors even today, but we're losing a lot of them. So the memory of that is further and further away.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I was about to say that because if you've read the book, the comic, of course, he portrays different racial ethnicities with animals.
Right. Yeah.
And some people may take offense the way he portrayed some of them as animals. You know.
Yeah, but I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Animal Farm. I mean, the novel.
Well, Animal Farm, that's a whole different kettle of fish. It started as a novel.
Yeah.
So,
true.
Novels was always a comic.
True. Yeah, true.
So,
Yeah.
That would probably be one comic property I think they should stay away from.
Yeah.
And then we haven't talked about it yet on the show, but I want to broach the subject. You have talked multiple times about anime.
Yes.
And how you're a fan and you've watched several anime and you like the medium. Ben, anime seems to be more, I think, on your because it revolves from manga, and manga is, the Japanese form of comics in their side of the world. Ben, have there been any influences from manga to your artworks?
Oh, yeah.
Which ones are the most prominent ones?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I was a huge anime manga fan, even as far back as the mid-'70s when I was first exposed to it.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, I never connected anime to anything other than just being cartoons because I grew up with Speed Racer and I think that was the only anime I ever watched.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was just a cartoon. It wasn't until I went to Taiwan where I actually saw real manga and real anime that I made the connection that, hey, this is done by, people on this side of the world. And they're putting out some really great stuff. Yeah. So I just fell in love with it. I incorporated it in my own work because I just like the style and, I like the simplicity of the work, and I like the storytelling. Yeah. And it's been a huge influence. I loved, I didn't know who the artists were. I just went by titles and by what I liked. I couldn't read the language, so I just picked up books that I thought looked good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. You had such a visual aspect.
Well, and plus there's just so much of it. I mean, you think we put out a lot of comics? Boy, they put out a lot of comics, a lot.
Yep.
They do.
A lot of people don't realize it, but there's